This is the Fiorenzato AllGround Sense, and I'm very excited to review it today after really putting it to test through my daily workflow. You see, this grind-by-weight grinder has been my main espresso grinder for months. But I have to admit, it's not made for everyone. I'll give you my honest thoughts about it, from the things I love to those I don't really like. So in case you're considering it, you can make an informed decision. This unit was sent to me to test out by Espresso Parts, but neither them or Fiorenzato review or influence this video in any way. So all the opinions here are based on my own experience, and they'll watch it at the same time as you are. The main appeal of this grinder is the grind-by-weight feature. Why would you want something like this, you may ask? Usually, on-demand grinders grind by time, which can be very inconsistent as you dial in, as there is a considerable difference on the amount of grounds you get from one setting to the other in the same exact amount of time. But with the AllGround Sense, you just set your portafilter or your dosing cup, and it'll grind exactly the amount of grounds you program it for. And we'll see this action in a minute as I will test how accurate it is. With a steel 20-pound body, this is indeed a sturdy and very beautiful grinder to look at, especially in this walnut finish I chose, of course. It also comes in full black, white, copper, silver, and even pastel blue, so there's virtually an option for every space out there. Out of the box, it comes with a hopper, a metal dosing cup, and this fork to set up your portafilter. It packs 64mm dark tea burrs. These are proprietary burrs from Fiorenzato, coated in titanium, aluminum, carbon, and nitrogen, which are a lot of words that didn't particularly tell me much in the beginning, but then I read that this makes the burrs 5 times more durable and able to go through over 3,000 pounds of coffee beans. That's pretty impressive. Adjusting the grind size is so satisfying with this big clicky dial, which is conveniently marked so you know when you're brewing espresso, or mocha pot, or filter coffee. Likewise, the touchscreen will change the interface to match the brewing method, and each interface has its own programming setup. I'll talk more about this and why this display is something I both love and fear about this grinder. Let's see it in action now. Again, this is an easy one to set up. First, turn it on with this big knob on the side and go to your desired grind size range. Now we're gonna do it for espresso first, so I'm gonna go all the way to the finest setting. The interface shows a single and double espresso shot options, which you can hold and adjust to your desired weight. It has a limit though, so the single dose will only go up to 12 grams, and the double dose will only go up to 24 grams. But honestly, you don't need more than that. If you just want to let it grind, then you just have to press this little hand here for as long as you need to. I'll set mine for 19 grams on the double shot. Once you program your grind size, it's just setting up the portafilter, which I will turn on my scale first so we can test out the accuracy of it. Now set it on the fork, and the scaling side will quickly turn the portafilter and be ready to go. Let's hit the double shot options and compare on my scale. Moment of truth. And certainly, it's exactly 19 grams here as well. This has been pretty consistent every time I test it. Sometimes it will have like 0.1, 0.2 grams of difference, but I think it's just the different calibrations of this scale versus this scale. For espresso, it just takes around 10 seconds to produce a double dose, which takes me to the pros and cons segment of this video, my favorite part. First, here's what I love about it. And if you're loving this video, or at least liking it, remember to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, please. I have never had an easier grinder to use. I've come from the popular Breville Smart Grinder Pro. Then I had the Eureka Mignon Chrono, the DF54, then the Malconic X54, among multiple single dose and even manual grinders. But the Fiorenzato AllGround Sense has given me a seamless experience I have never experienced before. I stopped worrying about the dose as I know I'm getting exactly what I asked for. It's pretty cool. Actually, it's pretty freaking cool. I just put it there and I forget about it, and when I come back, it's perfect. So being an all-around grinder, I also like the fact that it can be perfect for any method and bring the same performance and the same results. However, there's a caveat with it, which I'll talk more about in just a moment. As I mentioned before, this is a fast grinder. The burrs rotate at 1600 revolutions per minute, and it doesn't take more than 10 seconds to grind for espresso. The grounds seem pretty uniform, as expected in a grind in this category, not to say that the taste result is incredibly consistent. Something that I believe is important for a home grinder is how much noise it makes. The AllGround Sense, though, is not on the quiet side like the X54 or the H0. However, I don't consider it to be loud either. I use it in the mornings before my toddler wakes up, and I still haven't had any issues with it. One big deal for me when it comes to grinders is the cleaning process. Saying that this one is a delight is an understatement, so I'll just have to show it to you. First, you remove the hopper. Now turn the dial all the way to the coarsest setting and push this button to release the lock. Take the dial out, and as easy as that, you can take out the burr and brush it off. No screws, no tricky adjustments, nada de nada. And putting it back is just as simple. But as much as I like it and I use it every single day, it is not without its setbacks. The first one is that personally, I couldn't have this as my only grinder. As many of you, I switch around different coffee beans very often, which doesn't pair well with an on-demand grinder like this one. That's why many people prefer single-dose grinders that they can experiment with all the time. However, I tend to have preferred day-to-day beans, kinda like my daily driver, which I only switch when I find a better option. These are the ones that I buy by the pound for my morning cup, or for when I have people over. Right now, my go-to is this medium roast by Thumb Bargain Coffee Roasters. This is not a sponsor shout-out, just the one I like. But if they want to reach out to collab, I won't complain, so just let me know. If you have your go-to beans that please your palate, then this won't be a problem for you. But this takes me to the next point. This is a multi-purpose grinder, but I really think you should stick to one workflow with it. For similar reasons, changing from espresso to filter, for example, comes with an exchange of beans. But even if you prefer the same beans for any method, or you just don't really care that much about beans, there is waste that comes from making this change too often, which I'll go over in just a second. In my opinion, this is an espresso grinder first, and the rest is secondary. It does produce good results for filter, but then Fiorenzato released a filter-only grinder, the AllGround Pro Brew, which is a little bit confusing. I've got a video about it that you can check out later. In terms of reliability, I am fully confident that this is a grinder to own for many years with very basic maintenance. But I can't help to worry that everything is controlled through this touchscreen. If for any reason whatsoever this fails, there's no way to keep it going. However, the display seems to be very well protected, and I gotta say, it's very responsive. It feels like a smartwatch screen. A minimal pet peeve I've got with this though is that it can be a little bit messy. It's also rather staticky if using light roasts, and when using a portafilter, some of the grounds might fall off when grinding. Although this doesn't really affect the dose, as it will just pour a little bit more if that ever happens. You gotta be very careful when taking the portafilter out. Don't do it too quickly, as you might actually drop grounds or knock them out of the chute. I even sometimes move the portafilter and then it starts over, it gets confused. So that takes me to the main concern that people have with these kind of grinders, which is retention. On-demand grinders tend to have retention. That's normal. But the AllGround Sense has a retention that's fairly high, an average of 3 grams every time. There's a lot of grounds that just keep collected inside the chute. So when dialing new beans, I often need to do quite some purging, which can be, or at least feel to me, a little bit wasteful. Those grounds can also go stale overnight, so it's good to purge if you haven't used it for a while. But again, some of these setbacks are part of the experience. So if you're looking for a zero retention grinder, you might have to look at single dose options only. As I mentioned before, this is not for the experimenter who likes switching coffees every other day or 3 times a day, unless you've already got a single dose grinder just for that. Now, being a $1,300 grinder, then who is this made for? This is a high-end grinder when considered for home use. When compared to other grind-by-weight grinders in the category, like the Eureka Mignon Libra, for example, the Fiorenzato comes with a bigger price tag. But I actually find it appropriate when you consider the build quality, the performance, and the convenience altogether. I see this in the hands of a serious enthusiast or maybe a pro barista's home bar. If you're looking for consistency and to optimize your workflow at home, with a grinder that's capable of delivering great results time and time again, you're gonna get your money's worth with the Fiorenzato AllGround Sense. And with the commercial heritage, the grind speed, and this dark tea burst inside, I might say this could be a great option even for a cafe, like a small cafe obviously, or even a coffee cart. I've seen it in a couple coffee shops already, so this might be a budget option commercially speaking too. And if you're in the process of building or upgrading your home coffee setup, and you're wondering which machine will pair really well with this grinder, go watch this video next. I'll see you there.